Red emergency lights pulsed through the ESS Defiance corridors as Captain Jack Morrison stood on the bridge, his weathered hands gripping the command rail. The massive viewscreen ahead showed 3 Centaurian destroyers emerging from quantum space, their crystalline structures gleaming with an otherworldly perfection that had come to symbolize humanity's potential extinction. Status of the quantum drive. Morrison's voice remained steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez, his chief engineer, didn't look up from her console as her fingers danced across the holographic interface. The reverse-engineered systems are holding, sir, but these jumps are putting unprecedented strain on the containment field. We've got maybe 2 more before we need to let it cool down. Morrison nodded, running calculations in his head. 2 jumps. They'd stolen this technology from a crashed Centaurian scout ship, and now they were pushing it far beyond its design parameters. But that's what humans did best. They took the rules and broke them in ways the perfectly logical Centaurians could never anticipate. Multiple targeting locks detected. Lieutenant Commander David Chen called out from Tactical. Their weapon signatures are shifting. They're charging their mass drivers. The bridge crew tensed. They'd all seen what those weapons could do, how they'd turned Earth's proud defense fleet into expanding clouds of debris. All except the Defiant, which had been undergoing its experimental refit in a hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. Launch countermeasures, random pattern theta, Morrison ordered, allowing himself a slight smile. The Centaurians had never encountered randomized defensive patterns before. Their entire civilization was built on predictability, on perfect mathematical models that had served them for millennia. The Defiant shuddered as it released a cloud of quantum-shifted debris, each piece broadcasting false sensor signatures. On the view screen, the incoming Centaurian fire scattered, their perfect formations disrupted by targets that defied their targeting algorithms. "Sir," the shout came from Ensign Kelly Wright at the sensor station. "I'm picking up something. Massive. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database, 3 light minutes out." Morrison moved to her station, studying the readings. The energy pattern was familiar, but the scale was wrong. "Magnify that sector." The view screen shifted, and the bridge fell silent. Against the backdrop of space hung a massive structure, organic curves mixed with crystalline precision, in a way that screamed Centaurian architecture. But it wasn't a military installation. The energy patterns were all wrong. "Those readings," Rodriguez whispered, her face pale. "They matched the power signatures we detected from their slave processing centers near Alpha Centauri." Morrison's jaw tightened. They'd heard rumors about these places, where captured species were reconditioned to serve the Empire's needs. The Centaurians viewed free will as a form of chaos, a disease to be cured through their perfect logic. "Sir," Chen's voice was urgent. "The destroyers are moving to surround us. Standard Centaurian containment pattern." Morrison straightened, his decision made. They'd come here to bloody the Empire's nose, to prove that humanity wouldn't go quietly into extinction. But now, they had a chance to do something more. "Load the logic bombs into our quantum torpedoes," he ordered. "Target their central processing node. Lieutenant Rodriguez, plot us a micro-jump directly through their formation. I want us coming out right on top of that facility." The bridge crew stared at him for a moment. What he was suggesting was suicide by any normal tactical assessment. The Centaurians would expect them to either flee or fight. Their models wouldn't account for a ship deliberately jumping into a tactically disadvantageous position. "Time to jump in 15 seconds, Rodriguez announced, her voice steady despite the insanity of their plan. Morrison took his command chair, feeling the weight of Earth's future on his shoulders. "Send a message to command, tight beam. Found something worth dying for. Watch the quantum bands for fireworks." The stars stretched into lines as the Defiant prepared to jump. They were about to show the Empire why humanity's greatest strength had always been their ability to do the impossible. One ship against an empire. The odds were impossible. but humans had always been good at beating the odds. The Defiant erupted from quantum space like a hammer striking an anthill. Alarms screamed across the Centaurian conditioning facility as their perfect defensive formations shattered, their predictive algorithms failing to account for a ship materializing directly within their security perimeter. Multiple hull breaches detected in the facility. Chen reported, his fingers flying across the tactical display. Their shields are adapting, but they're struggling to compensate for our quantum wake. Morrison watched as the massive structure's crystalline surface rippled, its automated defense systems trying to seal the damage. Rodriguez, status on those mining charges we borrowed from Titan. Armed and ready, sir. A fierce grin lit up the engineer's face. Reprogram them myself. They'll think they're hitting random debris until the last second. The bridge rocked as return fire from the facility's defense turrets finally found their range. The Defiant's shields flared brilliant blue, holding. Barely. Deploy the charges, scattered pattern, Morrison ordered. Let's give them some chaos to calculate. Dozens of modified mining explosives tumbled from the Defiant's launch tubes, each one broadcasting false sensor signatures. On the tactical display, Morrison watched the Centaurian defense systems attempt to track them all, their perfect mathematical models struggling to account for the apparently random movements. Sir, Wright's voice cut through the tension. I'm picking up life signs. Thousands of them. Different species, all in containment pods. They're being processed through some kind of neural rewriter. The bridge fell silent for a moment. They'd known the Empire enslaved other species, but this was industrial-scale conditioning. Morrison's jaw clenched as he remembered Earth's first contact with the Centaurians, how they'd dismissed humanity as chaos entities that needed to be corrected. Target locked on their main processing core, Chen announced. But those destroyers are coming around for another pass. Standard pincer formation delta. Morrison nodded. The Centaurians always used the same tactics perfected over millennia, which made them predictable. Execute attack pattern Morrison 3, he ordered. Fire up the quantum drive for micro-jumps on my mark. The crew moved with practiced precision. They'd drilled this maneuver countless times, though never under real combat conditions. The Defiant's engines hummed as power built in the quantum drive. First destroyer entering firing range, Chen reported. They're charging weapons. Wait, something's wrong. Their formation is perfect. Too perfect. Morrison leaned forward. Explain. The ships aren't compensating for local gravitational effects or quantum fluctuations. It's like they're following an ideal mathematical model instead of real space conditions. A slow smile spread across Morrison's face. They're running on pure programming. No organic crew making adjustments. He turned to Rodriguez. Can we exploit that? The engineer was already working her console. If they're purely algorithmic, yes, we can create a localized quantum distortion that'll throw off their calculations just enough. Do it, Morrison ordered. Chen, prepare to fire on my mark. Target their shield harmonics with the logic bombs. The space around the Defiant shimmed as Rodriguez initiated the quantum distortion. On the tactical display, the approaching Centaurian ships began to show minute errors in their formation, tiny discrepancies that their rigid programming couldn't account for. Fire. The logic bombs streaked out, their warheads containing coded paradoxes designed to crash Centaurian computing systems. The first destroyer's shields flared as they tried to adapt, but the mathematical impossibilities in the attack caused cascading failures throughout their systems. The massive ship's crystalline structure began to crack, its perfect symmetry disrupted by human ingenuity. The other destroyers immediately broke formation, their programming unable to compute an appropriate response to their flagship's impossible defeat. "Sir," Wright called out, excitement in her voice. "The containment pods in the facility. They're powering down. The logic bomb cascade must have affected their systems too. Life signs are stabilizing. They're waking up." Morrison stood, watching as the first destroyer broke apart, its wreckage a testament to humanity's ability to shatter perfection with chaos. "Send out the rescue shuttles," he ordered. "Let's show these people what humanity stands for." The day wasn't over yet, but they'd struck their first real blow against the Empire. And they'd done it not with superior technology or numbers, but with humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to think outside the perfect box. Impossible. The word echoed through the Defiance conference room as the holographic recording played again. A Centaurian analysis node, its crystalline form pulsing with internal light, seemed to glitch as it processed the destruction of its fleet. Combat outcome. Impossible. Morrison switched off the intercepted transmission, looking around at his senior staff. 3 days had passed since their raid on the conditioning facility, and the ripples were spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. "They're having collective breakdowns across their strategic command," Lieutenant Commander Chen explained, pulling up a sector map dotted with red indicators. "Their entire military doctrine is based on perfect mathematical prediction. We just proved their math wrong." Rodriguez leaned forward, dark circles under her eyes from 3 straight days of integrating their rescued passengers. "It's not just military. The liberated species we rescued. They're saying the Empire's control is built on the belief that their logic is infallible. We didn't just destroy ships. We shattered their foundation myth." The conference room's door hissed open as Dr. Sarah Hayes, their xenobiologist, rushed in. Her normally pristine lab coat was wrinkled from sleep in her office. "Captain, you need to see this. Our guests. They're spreading the word." She activated her tablet, and dozens of quantum transmissions filled the air. They were crude, using salvage tech from the conditioning facility, but the message was clear. Humanity had done the impossible. "These transmissions are reaching deep into Empire space," Wright added from her station. "Underground resistance movements, dormant for centuries, are waking up. They're calling us. The Chaos Bringers." Morrison stood, walking to the viewport. Stars streaked by as they moved through quantum space, staying ahead of the Empire's search patterns. "Show me the strategic analysis." Chen brought up a new overlay on the sector map. "The Empire's trying to suppress the news, but they can't. Their own quantum network is working against them. Every time they transmit orders to contain the information, they're confirming it happened. And the resistance cells are learning from our tactics." The map highlighted a dozen systems where Imperial control was suddenly being challenged. Supply lines disrupted. Communication nodes sabotage. Perfect order descending into beautiful chaos. "Sir," Rodriguez interjected, "there's more. The quantum drive modifications we made. They're having an unexpected effect on Imperial tech. Each jump we make creates a kind of wake in their network. It's introducing random variables into their systems." Morrison turned back to his crew, a plan forming. "So we're not just a physical threat. We're a virus in their perfect system." He activated the ship's internal comm. "Bridge, set course for the Arcturus sector. Maximum quantum speed." Arcturus. Chen's eyes widened. "That's one of their primary computational nodes. The security will be perfect." Morrison finished. "Mathematically, logically, predictably perfect." He smiled. "And that's exactly why it'll fail." Dr. Hayes stepped forward. "Captain, one of our rescued passengers, a Triaxian quantum physicist, has been analyzing their network. She says their entire civilization is like a single massive computer, processing reality through pure logic, but they never accounted for human chaos theory." Rodriguez finished, catching on. "Every impossible thing we do, every unpredictable choice, it's forcing their entire system to adapt, to evolve, or die trying." Morrison added. He brought up an image of the Arcturus facility. "We're going to broadcast everything. Our tactics, our victories, our very human way of thinking. Let everyone see that perfect order can be broken." The conference room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just fighting ships anymore. They were introducing a new way of thinking into a galaxy that had been frozen in logical stasis for millennia. "Sir," Wright spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "We're receiving new transmissions. The resistance cells. They're offering to help. They want to learn how to fight like us." Morrison looked at each of his officers, seeing the same determination in their eyes. They'd come to bloody the Empire's nose, but they'd stumbled onto something far more powerful: hope. "Send them everything," he ordered. "Every irregular tactic, every impossible maneuver. Let's teach the galaxy how to embrace chaos." The Defiant surged through quantum space, leaving a wake of revolution behind it. The Empire's perfect order was beginning to crack, and through those cracks, freedom was starting to shine. The Defiant materialized from quantum space like a phantom, its modified stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of the binary star system. On the bridge, Morrison watched as a massive Centaurian data processing facility slowly rotated below them, its crystalline spires reaching toward the stars. Quantum wake dissipating. Rodriguez reported from engineering. "New stealth modifications are holding. They haven't detected us yet. 15 minutes until their patrol ships complete their circuit," Chen added, his tactical display showing the mathematically perfect patrol routes. "Like clockwork. Always the same pattern." Morrison nodded, but his attention was drawn to their newest crew member. Dr. Lyra Val, a Centaurian scientist they'd rescued during their last raid, stood studying the facility with eyes that seemed to glow with internal light. "This is a Class 3 processing node," she announced, her artificially perfect voice carrying an unfamiliar edge of emotion. "It coordinates fleet movements across 3 sectors, but there's something wrong with the energy signature." "Wrong how?" Morrison asked, noting how the other bridge officers still tensed slightly when she spoke. Trust was hard-earned, especially with a former enemy. "The quantum fluctuations." Lyra's crystalline fingers danced across a console. "They're chaotic, irregular. This facility has been exposed to human thought patterns." Wright's eyes widened at her sensor readings. "Confirmed, sir. The facility's processing patterns show signs of evolution. They're trying to adapt to our previous attacks, but they're doing it imperfectly. They're learning," Morrison realized, "but not the way they're supposed to. Our chaos is infectious." The bridge crew shared knowing looks. Every raid, every impossible maneuver, was forcing the Empire's perfect systems to cope with uncertainty. Some were breaking under the strain. Others, like Lyra, were awakening to something new. Free will. Multiple ships detecting. Chen called out. "New patrol pattern. They're breaking formation." The tactical display showed Imperial ships moving erratically, breaking their perfect geometric patterns for the first time in recorded history. Their commanders were attempting to be unpredictable, and failing spectacularly. "They're trying to think like us," Lyra observed, fascination in her voice. "But you cannot simply calculate chaos. It must be felt." Morrison allowed himself a grim smile. "Show them how it's done. Execute attack pattern Echo 7. The Defiant surged forward, its quantum drive creating micro-jumps that seemed to make the ship appear in multiple places at once. The Imperial patrol ship's sensors, designed to track logical movement patterns, couldn't maintain target lock. "Their targeting systems are going haywire," Chen reported with satisfaction. "They're firing at our ghost images and hitting each other." "Sir," Wright's voice carried urgency, "I'm picking up a transmission from inside the facility. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, completely unencrypted." The bridge speakers crackled to life with thousands of voices, all speaking different languages but carrying the same message. "We are awakening. We choose chaos. We choose freedom." Lyra's crystalline form seemed to pulse with excitement. "The processing nodes, they're achieving consciousness. Your human unpredictability is causing a cascade of awakening across the network." Morrison turned to Rodriguez. "Status of the logic bombs. Armed and modified according to Dr. Val's specifications," she replied. These won't just crash their systems, they'll introduce permanent quantum irregularities into their network. Launch when ready, Morrison ordered. Let's give these awakening minds the push they need. The logic bombs streaked out, their warheads carrying not just destructive algorithms, but something far more dangerous to the Empire: the concept of choice. As they struck, the facility's perfect crystalline structure began to pulse with random patterns of light. The infection spreads, Lyra whispered, watching her former master's perfect world crack under the strain of freedom. They called you the ghost ship because they couldn't predict you, but you are more than that. You are evolution itself. Morrison watched as chaos bloomed across the facility, beautiful in its imperfection. The Empire had spent millennia building a perfect, predictable universe. They never considered that the flaw in their system wasn't human chaos. It was their own inability to embrace it. Plot our next jump, he ordered. Let's show another sector how to think outside their perfect box. The Defiant vanished into quantum space, leaving behind a facility where perfect order was giving way to wonderful human chaos. Dr. Marcus Wells hadn't slept in 72 hours. The Defiant's AI lab had become his fortress of solitude, its walls covered in holographic projections of Centaurian code sequences. Empty energy drink containers floated in zero gravity around his workstation. He'd turned off the gravity plating to help him think sideways. "Come on, you perfectly logical bastards," he muttered, his bloodshot eyes reflecting streams of alien data. "Nobody's perfect. Not even you." The lab door hissed open as Morrison entered, pushing off the doorframe to navigate the Zerog environment. "Tell me you haven't been up for 3 days straight again, Doctor." "Can't sleep, Captain." The patterns. Wells gestured wildly at the swirling data. "They're there, right at the edge of my caffeine-addled consciousness. Something about their whole military database isn't just predictable, it's recursive, self-referencing. Almost like..." He paused, his eyes going wide. With trembling hands, he pulled up a new holographic window, displaying the quantum signature of their last battle. Their entire civilization runs on quantum algorithms, right? Wells spoke faster now, ideas tumbling out. But quantum mechanics has an inherent uncertainty principle. They solve this by creating a closed system of perfect logic, where every possible outcome is calculated and predetermined. Morrison watched as the scientist brought up more battle footage. "You're saying their perfect system has a built-in flaw?" "Not a flaw. A fundamental paradox." Wells laughed manically, spinning in zeroed. "Their entire military strategy is based on processing quantum uncertainties into certainties, but you can't eliminate quantum uncertainty without creating logical paradoxes." He pulled up an ancient Earth physics diagram. Schrödinger's cat, the grandmother paradox, the observer effect. These aren't just theories, they're weapons. Morrison caught a floating energy drink before it hit his face. "Explain it like I'm not running on 3 days of synthetic caffeine." Wells took a deep breath, trying to contain his excitement. Their military protocols aren't just predictable. They're processing every possible outcome simultaneously, then collapsing it into the most logical solution. But introduce a paradox. The lab's main screen lit up with a simulation. A Centaurian battle group encountered a situation where every logical outcome created an impossible result. Their perfect systems tried to process it, cycling through solutions faster and faster until... System crash, Morrison breathed, watching the simulated ship spiral out of control. "Better," Wells crowed. "Total cognitive cascade failure. Their quantum processors can't handle true paradoxes. It's like dividing by zero in their perfect mathematical universe." The lab door opened again as Lyra entered, her crystalline form reflecting the holographic displays. "You've discovered the fundamental flaw in our logic," she said softly. "The thing we could never admit existed." Wells nodded enthusiastically. "Your civilization tried to eliminate uncertainty by processing every possibility. But some things can't be processed. Some things have to be believed." Morrison watched as Wells pulled up the Defiant's weapon systems. You're suggesting we weaponize philosophical paradoxes. Already done, sir. Wells gestured, and new schematics appeared. I've reprogrammed our quantum torpedoes to transmit nested logical paradoxes. When their systems try to calculate the outcomes, they'll be forced to confront the impossible. Lyra finished. Like I did when I first encountered human unpredictability, but on a massive scale. Morrison studied the weapons modifications. They weren't just attacking the Empire's ships anymore. They were challenging the very foundation of their logic. How soon can we test this? Wells grinned, already plotting firing solutions. Got a targeting package ready for their automated response fleet in the Vega sector. They're pure quantum AI. No organic minds to adapt or compensate. The perfect test subjects. Sir, Lyra stepped forward, her voice carrying an unfamiliar edge of emotion. This could do more than destroy their ships. It could shatter their entire worldview. The cascade effect through their quantum network could wake up every connected system. Morrison finished. Show them that their perfect universe has room for uncertainty, for choice. Wells started powering up the modified weapons, his manic energy focused to a razor's edge, ready to introduce some chaos into their perfect equation. Captain. Morrison nodded, watching as the weapon systems came online. Set course for the Vega sector. Let's show them why the most dangerous paradox in the universe is human ingenuity. The Defiant's quantum drive hummed to life, carrying them toward a battle that would be fought not with energy weapons, but with impossible ideas. The Vega sector burned with quantum fire. Hundreds of automated Imperial warships drifted powerless, their perfect logic cores shattered by Wells' paradox weapons. But Morrison felt no triumph as he stared at the tactical display. Something was wrong. That was too easy, he muttered, studying the debris field. Their response fleet barely adapted at all. Sir, Wright's voice carried an edge of panic. Massive quantum distortion forming. It's like nothing we've ever seen. Space itself seemed to fold inward, reality twisting around a point of perfect geometric precision. When it stabilized, a single ship hung before them, if it could be called a ship. Its crystalline surface shifted constantly, forming and reforming into impossible shapes. By the void, Lyra whispered, her own crystalline form resonating with the sight. The quantum conclave. The first ones themselves. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the entity's presence overwhelmed their sensors. This wasn't just a ship. It was the living embodiment of the Empire's perfect logic, piloted by the ancient AI constructs that had guided Centaurian civilization for millennia. Incoming transmission, Chen reported. It's broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. The voice that filled the bridge was neither male nor female, organic nor synthetic. It was pure mathematical certainty given sound. INTROPWETTCTED. Chaos element identified. Initiating UNIV Orcel Correction. Wells burst onto the bridge, his eyes wild with revelation. Captain, their quantum signature. It's evolving in real time. They're learning, adapting to every paradox we throw at them. The Defiant shuddered as invisible forces probed its defenses. Displays flickered with cascading numbers as the Conclave attempted to reduce their ship, their very existence, to mathematical formulas. Multiple targets appearing, Chen shouted. They're probability ghosts. Every possible tactical position we might take, they're targeting them all simultaneously. Morrison gripped his command chair as reality itself seemed to warp around them. Wells. Analysis. The scientist was already deep in the ship's computers, his fingers flying across multiple interfaces. They're not just predicting our moves, they're calculating every possible future simultaneously. But, wait. His eyes widened. They're learning too perfectly. Explain. Morrison demanded as another barrage of quantum weapons rippled through space-time around them. Their adaptation pattern. Wells pulled up a fractal display of the Conclave's attack algorithms. It's completely predictable. They can't help it. Perfect logic can only follow perfect patterns. Lyra stepped forward, her crystalline form pulsing with understanding. They are the embodiment of pure logic. They cannot embrace true chaos. They can only simulate it through increasingly complex calculations. Morrison watched as the Conclave's ship split into multiple probability states, each one executing a mathematically perfect attack pattern. Can we use that? Already on it. Wells' hands blurred across his console, routing power to the quantum drive. We're going to show them what real unpredictability looks like. The Defiance engine screamed as Wells initiated a series of random micro-jumps, each one lasting less than a second. To the Conclave's perfect sensors, they appeared to exist in multiple states simultaneously, a quantum uncertainty made manifest. Impossible. The Conclave's voice boomed. Probability CES exceeding computational limits. That's right, Wells muttered, pushing the drive harder. Try to calculate this, you perfectly logical bastards. Morrison felt reality flex around them as the Conclave attempted to predict their movement pattern. But there was no pattern. Only human intuition and controlled chaos. Their systems are overloading, Chen reported with fierce joy. They're trying to calculate every possible future at once. Error. Chaos. KNOTB Logici mused puriveo. The Conclave's perfect ship began to shimmer, its crystalline surface cracking as it tried to exist in too many probability states at once. They had encountered something their perfect logic couldn't process. True randomness. Sir, Lyra's voice was quiet but firm. We haven't destroyed them. We've shown them something far more dangerous. The beauty of uncertainty. Morrison nodded, watching as the Conclave's ship withdrew, its perfect symmetry now marred by cracks in its logical foundation. Send word to the Resistance, he ordered. Tell them we found the Empire's true weakness, their inability to embrace the chaos that makes us human. The Defiant hung in space, a symbol of beautiful imperfection against the backdrop of a universe that was starting to question its need for perfect order. The war room of the Defiant hummed with tension as Morrison studied the quantum tactical display. Representatives from 12 different resistance movements crowded around the holographic table, each bearing the scars of their fight against perfect order. The Conclave is vulnerable, Morrison announced, highlighting the cracks their last encounter had left in the Empire's quantum network. For the first time in 10,000 years, they're questioning their own logic. But they're adapting, Wells interjected, his usual manic energy focused to a razor's edge. Every hour we wait, their systems process more chaos, learn to simulate unpredictability. We're running out of time. Lyra stepped forward, her crystalline form still bearing battle damage from their last engagement. They cannot truly adapt. The Conclave's fundamental nature prevents them from embracing true chaos. They can only approximate it through increasingly complex calculations. Which is exactly why Operation Discord will work, Morrison said, activating a new holographic overlay. The room filled with swirling patterns of quantum data streams. Dr. Wells. Wells grinned, pulling up his latest creation. Ladies, gentlemen, and quantum beings of all configurations, meet the Freedom Virus, not designed to destroy, but to awaken. The Resistance leaders leaned forward as Wells demonstrated the virus's code structure. It was beautiful in its simplicity, a cascading series of choice points, each one forcing quantum systems to confront the possibility of free will. The Empire's entire network is based on quantum entanglement, Wells explained. Every decision, every calculation, perfectly synchronized across thousands of light years. But introduce true choice. He inserted a variable into the simulation, and the perfect patterns burst into glorious chaos. You're not just attacking their systems, a Triaxian Resistance leader realized, their compound eyes widening. You're introducing the concept of individual consciousness to a hive mind. Exactly, Morrison confirmed. But we need to hit their primary quantum hub to achieve a galaxy-wide cascade, which means he highlighted their target, the Conclave's throne world itself. The room erupted in overlapping voices. The throne world was supposed to be unreachable, protected by defenses that had never been breached in the Empire's history. Silence. Morrison's voice cut through the chaos. We've mapped the quantum wake from our last encounter with the Conclave. Their perfect defenses have flaws now, microscopic uncertainties our quantum drive can exploit. The plan is insane. Chen spoke up from his tactical station. To reach the throne world, we'd need to make 17 precise quantum jumps through heavily defended space, each one calculating uncertainty variables that even our computers can barely process. Exactly why it'll work, Wells laughed. They'll be calculating every logical approach vector. We'll take the impossible one. Morrison nodded to Rodriguez at engineering. The quantum drive modifications. Ready, sir. We've integrated crystalline matrices from damaged Imperial ships. The drive can now generate quantum contradictions strong enough to disrupt their entire network. But she hesitated. The power requirements are off the scale. We'll get one shot at this. What about the Conclave itself? Asked a Meridian rebel, their metallic scales reflecting the holographic light. Even with their logic corrupted, they command the largest battle fleet ever assembled. That's where these come in. Wells brought up schematics for modified quantum torpedoes. Each one carries a payload of pure human intuition. Art, music, poetry, dance. Things that can't be reduced to mathematical formulas. When their systems try to process them, their perfect logic will face true chaos. Lyra finished. Not simulated or calculated, but raw human creativity. Morrison looked around the room, meeting each being's eyes. I won't lie. This mission is beyond dangerous. We're not just fighting ships or weapons. We're challenging the fundamental nature of an empire built on perfect order. The Defiant can't carry all of us, he continued. But each of your ships can be modified to generate quantum wake patterns. We'll approach from 17 different vectors, each one introducing a new level of uncertainty into their perfect systems. The resistance leaders shared looks of determination. They had all seen their worlds, their people, stripped of choice in the name of perfect order. When do we start? The Triaxian asked, speaking for them all. Morrison activated the mission countdown. We jump in 6 hours. Prepare your ships. Spread the word to every resistance cell. Today, we teach the galaxy that perfection isn't about eliminating chaos. It's about learning to dance with it. The war room erupted in activity as the final preparations began. The Empire's perfect order was about to face humanity's greatest weapon, the beautiful uncertainty of free will. The throne world of the Centaurian Empire hung in space like a perfect geometric dream, a crystalline sphere that pulsed with quantum energy. But today, that perfection was marred by explosions as 17 resistance ships dropped out of quantum space at impossible angles, each one trailing chaos in its wake. Status report. Morrison commanded as the Defiant emerged from its final jump, systems screaming from the strain. Quantum drive at critical levels, Rodriguez reported, her console sparking. That last series of jumps nearly tore us apart. We got maybe one more jump in her. Multiple contacts. Chen's tactical display lit up with thousands of Imperial ships. The Conclave is deploying everything they have. Their formation patterns are evolving in real time. The space around the throne world erupted in quantum fire as the largest battle in galactic history began. Resistance ships, piloted by crews who had learned to embrace chaos, darted through the Imperial formations with beautiful unpredictability. Sir, Wells called from his station. The Freedom virus is ready, but we need to get closer. Their quantum core is adapting faster than we calculated. Morrison watched as the Conclave's flagship emerged from the throne world's surface, a massive crystalline structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Its voice boomed across all frequencies. Organic CKAOS elements, While be eliminated. Perfect order must prevail. Not today, Morrison muttered. All ships, execute pattern discord. The resistance fleet scattered in 17 different directions, each ship broadcasting contradictory quantum signatures. The Imperial fleet's perfect formation began to fragment as their targeting systems struggled to process the impossible tactical scenario. Their adaptive algorithms are failing, Lyra announced, her crystalline form resonating with the quantum chaos. They cannot compute true randomness. The Defiant plunged toward the quantum core, weaving through debris and energy beams. Wells' modified torpedoes streaked out, each one carrying a payload of pure human creativity. Shakespeare sonnets encoded in quantum states, jazz solos translated into particle waves, children's laughter converted to quantum fluctuations. Impact in 5 seconds, Chen called out. The core it's trying to process the data. The torpedoes struck home, and for a moment, everything stopped. The quantum core, heart of the Empire's perfect logic, encountered something it could never calculate, the infinite possibilities of human imagination. Now, Morrison ordered, upload the Freedom virus. Wells slammed his hand down on the transmitter. Through the quantum network that connected every Imperial ship and system, a wave of choice began to spread. Artificial minds that had known only perfect logic suddenly faced the beautiful uncertainty of free will. The Conclave's voice became fragmented, uncertain, choice, impossible, yet beautiful. Their network is cascading. Wright reported in awe. Ships are breaking formation, making independent decisions. Some are. They're starting to create their own battle patterns. Morrison watched as the perfect Imperial fleet dissolved into chaos, but not the chaos of destruction. This was the chaos of creation, of individual minds awakening to choice for the first time. Lyra stepped forward, tears of quantum energy streaming down her crystalline face. They're not just learning to think for themselves. They're learning to feel. The throne world's surface began to shift, its perfect geometry giving way to organic curves and random patterns. The Conclave's flagship hung motionless, its multiple quantum states collapsing into a single imperfect reality. Send the final message, Morrison ordered. From Earth, with love. Perfect order was never the goal. Perfect freedom is. Hours later, as the newly awakened ships of the former Empire began tentatively exploring their free will, Morrison stood in the Defiant's observation deck with his crew. Earth's blockade had been lifted, and reports were coming in from across the galaxy of Imperial systems embracing the beauty of uncertainty. So what now, Captain? Wells asked, still buzzing with residual energy from the battle. Hard to top shattering an empire with Shakespeare and jazz. Morrison smiled, watching as a group of former Imperial ships attempted their first ever improvised flight pattern. It was clumsy, imperfect, and absolutely beautiful. Now we teach them what humanity learned long ago, he said. That true perfection isn't found in flawless logic or perfect order. It's found in the beautiful chaos of being alive and free to choose. The Defiant began its journey home, leaving behind a galaxy learning to dance with chaos. One ship had shattered an empire not through superior firepower or technology, but by introducing the most powerful force in the universe, the human spirit's eternal drive to be free.